the senator, while indoctrinated, could not explain his toxicity.
You should not listen to men's rights advocates if you want to know what they have to say.
What's up, party people, and also any of you NPCs out there, and welcome to HBR News number 182. Are Trump voters woke on anti-male discrimination? I am your host, Brian Martinez, and I'm here with my panelists, who are at least 1/64th Russian trollbot, to look at the best feels, funnies, and what the fucks to discuss Slam Bam Badger style. Let's get started, shall we? So today's panel consists of the usual suspects. We have Mike J, Mike S, or Dr. Randomcam, Hannah Wallen, and me, the Doge in Charge. We have a great show lined up for you guys today, so please be sure to continue the conversations both in the chat as well as the comment section. On this week's show, we're going to be talking about Amy Schumer and her comments about how hard pretty women have it. Yes, you won't believe that. Yale Law School's response to what happened with Christine Blasey Ford, reclaiming the man-hating dyke term, and a lot more. So please stick around. It's going to be a good time. Also, stick around afterwards for the patron-only after show. Keira Knightley has been commenting on the dangerous messaging in old Disney films like Cinderella, Sleeping Beauty, and Little Mermaid. You know, the really pressing, important issues of our time. But lo, she is doing feminism wrong, as The Guardian's own Arwa Madawi writes a counter-piece, a counter-argument entitled, "Consider the following. Keira Knightley underestimates Cinderella. She is a hustler and a baller. And since Arwa is a woman of color, she's probably right. White feminism, you almost got in there, you sneaky cunt." Anyway, if you'd like to participate in our after shows either as an audience member or a participant, please consider becoming a patron at www.patreon.com/honeybadgerradio. And if you don't want to wake up one morning to find yourself unable to find our content because YouTube finally dropped the axe on our channels, go to badgerfeed.com. That's badgerfeed.com. Now, you might be wondering, why am I going through the intro so fast? Well, I mean, first off, I try not to make it drag out as much, but also I have another reason. There's an additional story I wanted to throw in, just really brief. I have not been able to really confirm it because I wasn't able to find a source, despite the fact that I was trying to. But I have heard that YouTube is adding this new rule for your channel, or for our channels, right? In terms of access to our monetization features. So basically, the way it works is, and this was shared by Keemstar on Twitter, so that's about as legit as I can get, and it features a screenshot from what is supposed to be The Guardian, but I couldn't find the original article. But here's what it says. The company has tightened the rules for which channels have access to monetization features and deployed machine learning technology to identify hate speech in comment features. The spokeswoman added, if a user is caught sending abusive, hate speech, oriented super chats, the revenue received will be donated to charity instead of being split between YouTube and the channel's creators. So, what does hate speech mean? Your guess is as good as mine, but if you send us a super chat through YouTube, then odds are, we might not get the money, and YouTube isn't even going to get the money, and they already take like 30 or 40% out of super chats anyway. So what I would recommend instead is, you might have noticed in the upper right-hand corner, a little a card there. Try going to that card. I think it should take you to our Streamlabs, or go to streamlabs.com/honeybadgerradio. Either way, you can donate there and, add comments, add GIFs, things like that. It should pop up on our channel. You should see that there is a tip jar on the table there next to Mike J right there. The tips will go in there. You can just send it that way. We can get around the entire super chat bullshit, because I don't know what that means when they say the artificial intelligence is going to take the hateful comments and make the money go away. It's going to go to some charity. We don't know what the charity is. We don't know anything except that we're not getting it. And I think that if you come between a person who wants to give you money and a person who's willing to take the money, that's some shady shit going on right there. So well, let's hope. I mean, let's hope that that's actually the result, because this is it's not good. No bueno. Me no likey. So anyway, that being said, if you haven't, it says everybody is silent. If anyone's talking, we can't hear. Will you guys say something real quick? Can you guys really not hear that? It says all. That doesn't make any sense. Yeah, I don't know why that is, though. Let me see. Why would that be the case? Oh, you know what? Let's try. Say something again. Yeah, it seems like it should be working. No one except you, Brian, only can hear you. Okay. How did that happen? I have literally changed nothing on my end. I don't understand how that's possible. I got to think about this. Let me go into the settings and see how the sound is coming out. All right. You guys quickly, let me see. Cable input. Okay. Why would that be the case? I'm really confused by that. It's probably, I'll try that. I'll try to update. I'll turn off Discord and come back in. The buffering continue. I'm still here. Can you guys still hear me? You popped out. Okay. Discord is starting back up. Brian's server has been invaded by feminist gremlins. HBR technically seems like a good charity to give money to. Brian breaking OBS again. Hold on, relax. I'm trying to figure this out. I don't know, and the thing is, it can't be tested. Just so you know. All right. Are you guys? Can you guys hear me? Okay, let's see. It's updated the thing. So let's see. Also, let me test something else, because this desktop sound is, I want to try to narrow down what this is. So can you guys hear this? Just a moment. Did you guys hear that? Okay. Did you guys hear that? Somebody said yes, we can hear you. Still only Brian though. Okay. I don't know why that is. That is really strange. Well, I have a solution. No desktop sound. Okay, so the problem is the desktop sound. Might be aliens or trolls. Well, well, I mean, it's showing activity when you guys make noise on the desktop audio in OBS. So I don't know why that wouldn't be working. Let me yeah, it's showing activity. So we should be able to hear you. But let's see. Cable input. All right. I'll try one more thing. I'll try restarting voice meter banana. So you'll lose all the audio for a moment. I'm sorry, guys. I don't know how this. I mean, I just streamed like a little while ago and it was fine. So I don't know how this happened. I changed nothing. Anyway, I'll be right back. I know you guys can't hear me. Can you? No. So we're trying this again. All right. Hello? All right. let's see. I restarted Voice Meter. Watch Doc's new vid in the meantime, people. Oh, stop. We'll get this figured out. Okay. Somebody asked if... I don't see how it can be a sound card thing. Is it just me, though? Can you just hear me? It says still just Brian. I don't understand. All right. It doesn't. Like, it really doesn't. The only thing I can think of is to turn on the speakers and let your sound go through on that. But that might sound like shit. Otherwise, there's no sound. So I don't know what else it could be. I really, really am confused by this. Yeah, I'll have to... I can't do this... I can't do this now. Like, I think this is just not the best time. So, restart the whole stream. I don't think that'll matter. Restart the stream? Is it something on their end? Yeah. Yeah, and besides, like, if I can hear you and OBS can hear you because it's registering, there's something from OBS into YouTube where that's where the problem is, right? I can hear you, OBS can hear you because it's the registering on the desktop audio. Voice Meter Banana can hear you because it's registering the sound, but for whatever reason, the audience can't hear you. So I don't know why that might be the case. It says make sure a Voice Meter Banana is my default device. I'm fairly certain it is because I've done this before. Yeah, I don't know why that is. Oh, he can't hear you saying that, but.
But as soon as the show started.
Okay, I'm gonna have to just turn on the. So when it must be an issue in OBS then for sure. Yeah, maybe.
It has to be. OBS is not broadcasting the desktop sound for some reason.
Okay, they say they can hear you, but that's probably because I got the speaker coming out. It's gonna have to be this way. I don't know how any other way to do it.
Yeah.
The only other thing I could think of is restarting a computer.
Yeah, I'm not doing that now.
I had to do that for the last show.
I think we're gonna have to just do the show this way for now. I apologize, guys. I've turned on the speakers. Yeah, it's the only way. They say not great audio, but working for us. Okay, so I'll turn you up. Actually, I gotta turn the mic up here. Hold on. Okay. Go ahead and say something. Anybody.
Something.
All right.
Something.
How's that,
oh,
guys?
the echo.
Yeah, this is going to be pretty rough.
I'll mute my my microphone when you guys are talking though, so you shouldn't get an echo. They said surprisingly little echo. Yeah, I mean it's. Yeah, that's right. I'll have to.
Between some rocks, eh?
No, wait. Let's do it this way. I'll mute my microphone in Discord.
I'm not sure that's going to work. Like right now I'm talking and I bet you they can't hear me.
Yeah, actually they can because it's like the speaker's being picked up by my microphone, but I'm not muting the microphone, I'm muting Discord.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
So that's gonna, I mean, that's the only way. I don't know. Say I'm a little loud. I know because I'm closest to the thing. All right. I'm sorry, guys. I don't know what the issue is. I mean, we've had no problems for a while, and then today it just decided that there would be a problem. So I couldn't tell you. But the show must go on, right?
Yeah. It's almost a guarantee that this is a problem between Discord and OBS, because Discord has a habit of like taking your settings and resetting them to its own specifications for no apparent reason.
Okay. Well, then they say that sounds it'll work. This sounds like it'll work. I think this will have to do. So I'm gonna, when I'm talking, we'll just, I'll only unmute when I'm gonna say something, and then we'll just go ahead and just go with the show from there. So, all right. So let's see. What was I saying? Oh yeah. So this Keemstar story about super chats. I just saw somebody donated. Thank you so much. We'll just try and do it that way. I'll keep OBS running. If you guys actually put a comment, it should. Alison set it up, so no promises, but it should read it out. So, with that said, we're gonna talk a little bit about let's see, the first story, which is about Trump voters. And I'm going to hand this one off to Mike, because I believe that you are the one that did a write-up. I'm just sort of getting my shit together. Okay. If you could, Mike J.
Why, certainly, Brian. In a poll conducted by The Economist and YouGov, those who voted for President Donald Trump were 49% likely to agree that men in America were discriminated against. The 49% statistic comes from adding together the categories a great deal discriminated against, which was 18%, and a fair amount discriminated against, which was 31%. Publications such as Inquisitor have used the survey to push a progressive narrative, of course, stating, quote, participants who claimed to have voted for Trump in the 2016 presidential elections inexplicably seem to suggest that men in America faced most discrimination when compared to women or its ethnic minorities. The self-described, quote, queer news and culture website Into More does much the same, tweeting out, quote, Trump voters think straight men face more discrimination than LGBTQ people. What Inquisitor and Into More both neglect to mention is that the survey did not mention what type of man was facing the discrimination in the question. One could easily argue that the question was meant to imply all men, regardless of race, sexuality, religion, or creed. What's also fascinating is that among Clinton voters, 89% of those surveyed believe that women are more discriminated against. But I suppose we can't talk about that because it lines up with the narrative.
All right. Anybody got any thoughts on this study? Now, I know that people are going to say this doesn't mean they're MRAs. I agree. But I think that there's something positive to take from this, isn't there?
Oh, there's lots of positivity to take from this. First of all, I think it's pretty obvious that the NPC narrative is no longer being purchased on the open market by the political layman. And it's obvious that NPCs are just shocked, absolutely, totally, and completely floored by the fact that they can't just rely on screaming standard promulgations out of the progressive stack to convince people to go their way in terms of like voting and political initiatives and stuff like that. Like the fact that people are waking up to you cannot cure prejudice and discrimination by reversing it instead of eliminating it. That seems to be they were not expecting that, and I think maybe throughout history, people haven't figured that out, and we're getting to a point where now they are. So there's a lot of positivity to take out of this. Eventually, as we slow that pendulum swinging back and forth between which end of the political spectrum gets discriminated against, we'll get to a point where it's not slicing into anybody.
All right. I'm sorry, the dog is barking and I can't mute my microphone, so
that just means we get to hear a doggo.
Yeah, that's true. Jojo he has opinions. He's an opinionated dog. He's got lots to say on this. But
he's probably right.
Yeah, no, my dog's never wrong. But this is a good thing. So I think does it mean that, again, that we're all like red pilled and like the whole feminist narrative is sort of the mainstream narrative is dead or dying? No, not at all. But the fact that there are And I think a lot of it has to do with Me Too and the Kavanaugh thing, and even the way that, you know, Trump is being treated and men in general, because SJW's always double down. People are starting to, I think, that's a large number of people to kind of like even consider that men can be discriminated against. And that, for me, is huge. It's enormous. And this stuff does happen. And and I'm glad it's being pointed out. So, I got a super chat. I'm going to go ahead and read out. So there are some people still sending them. Sierra de Flora gives us $2 and says, the feminists have sent their voodoo magics again. Yeah, I don't get it. I'm going to figure it out, but I don't get it. Redicus gives us $5 and says, so if I super chat, tu madre es mi bicicleta, the Google overlords will donate my money to the Spanish midget orphanage. It's an AI algorithm, so tu madre by itself, that right there is, you just donated $5 to, probably to Spanish midgets, yeah. But anyway, so yeah, let me know what you guys think about this first story. I know that it's again, nobody's saying that everything has changed and all that, but I think that this is definitely something positive, something that we can, I find like some hope in. So
there's one other thing I will
ahead.
say about this. I honestly am not sure this survey would have gotten this result if Trump's opponents hadn't been so gung-ho to use, he said grab her by the pussy and he's a womanizer and false accusations and blah 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 to try to take him down. You know, if Orange Man Bad hadn't taken the form of a porn star accusing him of something that men all over the country and women all over the country do on a regular basis, that she blackmailed him for, that, you know, this would be an entirely different thing. But because the sexist attack essentially on not just Trump but pretty much anybody else they could attack that way in his organization, that I think really woke people up. And then when they hit Kavanaugh with demonstrably false accusations and called them credible over and over and over again on the news, I can't possibly have been the only person sitting at home watching the news, listening to people use the phrase credible accusations to describe accusations made by a woman who couldn't even keep her story straight, and going, what do you mean credible? Prove what's credible about these accusations. Ask people on Twitter, what's credible about these accusations? Nobody could tell me. I'm pretty sure there are many people who were pro-Trump or who were at least not anti-Trump who looked at that and said, how in the hell did we land here? And I think that probably affected people's opinions.
Yeah, I think so too. I think the media circus from around the beginning of the whole like race to the election, on after the election, into all that's happened all over the place, I think that it's definitely part of a larger pattern that people are starting to see. So, but enough about what those right-wing Pepe Russian robots think about the plight, the inexplicable plight facing men, ? We should be talking about how hard it is to be a woman prettier than Amy Schumer. So, yeah, that's a real story. Mike J, if you could.
Thank you, Brian. So I'm gonna start with a joke here. So two cannibals were eating Amy Schumer. One turns to the other and says, "Does this taste funny to you?" The second cannibal replies, "No." Jokes aside, in a recent appearance on Armchair Expert, a podcast run by Dax Shepard, Schumer discussed how hard it is being a woman, specifically how hard it is to be an attractive woman. Schumer was quoted as saying, quote, "Being a woman sucks. It's very difficult. And something else that we've all realized is like, we're sexualized like all the time, even when it seems crazy. So I feel really bad for these girls who are so hot because guys can't handle it." But not being hot is also a curse, according to Schumer, who stated, "But then there's also women that feel so unattractive that they're just invisible. It just sucks anyway." Schumer also expanded upon the constant terror that every woman faces at any given moment in life, stating, quote, "Women are mostly scared of violence because, 1 in 6 women reports being sexually assaulted. But it's 1 in 3 women. So we're not even like, it's going to happen. We're like, when? When we run home at night, we live in constant fear of violence."
Good Lord. That was so...
Oh,
These are the real important problems, yeah.
Oh my God, just so damn hard. Just can't tell you guys. Anytime I get stranded on the side of the road, because my dumbass didn't maintain my car properly, and I didn't keep track of how the condition my tires were in or something like that, I always end up getting stalked by some, dangerous, nefarious, helpful person. I don't think I've ever had to change my own tire. It's just so I don't know if I even remember how to do it, except for helping out with my husband at home. Always some guy will stop and help me, and it just blows my mind. I just don't know if I can handle it. That's just terrible, right? And anytime I'm ever going to or from a building and I've got my arms full of stuff, there's always some guy ready to impose helplessness and open the door for me. Poor me. I just can't take it. I've had people tell me I look better than I think I do, and I've had people tell me they like my smile even though my teeth are broken. And oh, geez, I just don't know, guys. That's so much harder than actually having somebody
How did
attack.
you survive?
Yeah, it's just, I don't know, man. This whole thing, like being completely ignored would be so much easier. Having to do all this shit myself would be so much easier. Having nobody ever buy me a drink, having nobody ever take me to dinner, having nobody ever say nice things to me, that would just be so much easier. And of course, the fact that no man has ever been assaulted in his entire life just makes it that much more difficult to deal with. I'm so fed up. Amy Schumer is right. I'm leaving. I'm going to be a feminist from now on. God, that bitch drives me nuts. Like, seriously. And then to turn around and speak for sexual violence victims when she has flat out bragged about having sex with a guy back in college who couldn't maintain consciousness, right? Because he was so drunk. And she knew he was that drunk when she went into his house. She knew he was that drunk, went in, and had sex with him anyway, and complained that he had the audacity to pass out on her while she let him go down on her. I mean, can you imagine a reversal of the sexes on that? Some guy, oh yeah, I let her go down on me and she passed out. That bitch. That would definitely end up getting the guy investigated, because look, there's no statute of limitations, if I remember right, in the area she was talking about on that crime. But there's not even ever been any action from the prosecuting attorney on that incident. And that was an incident that she described publicly, that feminists came out and said, oh, you're so courageous for talking about what a horrible thing that was for your self-esteem, while she made fun of this guy that she has done this to on stage in front of hundreds of women at this event that she was at, this feminist event that she was at. I have no sympathy for Schumer and her attitudes about physical appearance and difficulty in life. I'd say she could kiss my ass, but she can't.
I wouldn't want those lips on anywhere near. I mean, who knows where they've been. But, yeah, so basically, Schumer is celebrating the fact that, in her mind, she's ugly enough that she doesn't have to deal with men constantly hitting on her. So I guess whatever you need to tell yourself, so you feel good. I'm happy for you. But we're gonna move on to another story. So I am getting notifications for super chats. That's what that sound is. I know that you guys can't hear it because I'm muting my microphone, but it is coming out. So I got one from Redicus for $2, and he says, "No, God, no!" Basically, at the photo of Amy Schumer's smiling over her shoulder. It's a really weird photograph. And then Ciara de Flora gives us $2 and says, "All of the women of HBR are goddesses." Well, thank you, Ciara de Flora. But what about the men of HBR? What do we like, chop liver? I thought that was the whole point of.
No, see, you got to be the counterpart. So you're gods. You can't be goddesses unless you identify as female.
Queens.
There we go.
Okay. Yeah, what we need is Common to come down here and recite a spoken word poem that talks about how MRAs are kings and queens. But I'm not going to hold my breath. So, since I'm having these audio issues, I thought maybe if you'd be willing, maybe Dr. Ranamakham would read the next story, and I could do the controls.
Yeah, I'll give it a go. It's part of Christine Blasey Ford's testimony, spray painted outside of Yale Law School. That one. It's going well so far, isn't it?
Yeah, that one. Yeah, we're going from story number 3. Yes.
Okay. All right. Just because Brett Kavanaugh survived his confirmation process doesn't mean that people want to forget about Christine Blasey Ford's allegations against Brett Kavanaugh. Despite her accusations, which have not been corroborated by another individual, someone decided to spray paint part of her testimony at the entrance to Yale's law school. The defacement reads, "Indelible in the hippocampus is the laughter." Previously, 250 law professors, some of them from Yale, had signed a letter protesting the Kavanaugh nomination. Laurel Raymond, a student at Yale, said that, "But this is different. Something about the permanence of paint speaks to how deeply betrayed and disappointed people feel." There's still a lot of anger and disappointment in the halls of Yale law. I think in particular, a lot of female students feel very fundamentally betrayed, but also very determined to change things for the better. So it's paint like patriarchy now. It's paint white supremacy.
Well, it was white paint, so...
It's okay to be white paint.
I swear to God, when I first read this, I thought it was a troll because of the quote, "Indelible in the hippocampus is the laughter." I thought this has to be a troll. I'm still not sure.
That was her actual testimony.
Yes.
This is something I don't get. What victim of anything starts talking in their testimony about their hippocampus? I don't care what her profession is. I honestly, that's insane. The idea that someone would that would be the first thing that would come out when they were asked a question about what they do remember from the event. That's insane. It's manufactured. Yeah, it's prepared.
It's like when a child
manufactured.
starts talking in an adult dialogue, you can tell they've been prepared. It's a lot like that, actually.
And she said it in a child's voice, so that fits. I mean, she talked like a little kid when she was making her testimony, and the whole thing was bullshit. The whole thing was manufactured. And the great indoors, it's been over 20 years since I took anatomy and physiology, but the hippocampus is part of the brain. So she was basically saying that she had a particular area of her brain that was burned into a particular area of her brain. And I would actually have to refresh myself on why that would be even significant, that it was that specific part of the brain before I could, say anything else on that sound intelligent. But in any case, that statement was so stupid. And it was like, it wasn't just a screw up, it was a blatant, open, screaming, "Hey everybody, this is pre-scripted. I don't actually feel anything about this screw up." And for a law school and the law professors associated with that school and the other most prominent law school in the country to latch onto this in support of someone who is more and more being demonstrated to be a blatant liar. That's very disturbing, because the people you rely on when you go to court facing a false accusation are standing by a false accuser. And both Yale and Harvard should be deeply, deeply ashamed of this. This shouldn't be considered activism. It should be considered an admission of bias by the lawyers that come out of basically the two top schools in the country as far as the layman is concerned. And I think at this point, if I were looking for an attorney and I saw a diploma from either of those schools on their office wall, I would question their ability to handle my case if I was facing an accusation. That would bother me.
So I got a super chat from Redicus for $5 and says, all I have to say is cakes for Kavanaugh. And also, I wanted my balls in the cup. So thank you. You've just given YouTube's charity $5. It probably has to do with the reconstruction of the hippocampus, or for people like Christine Blasey Ford and other survivors, to help them better remember the laughter. So thank you for the $5, Redicus. YouTube will make good use of it, but not us. In addition, speaking of hippocampuses, I apologize for leaving the hippopotamus on the screen and not switching to the hippocampus quickly enough. So, but all right. Well, we got two more really serious and feminist stories that we need to get to. So I'm gonna again hand it off to Dr. Randermacam. This is about the reclamation of the word man-hating dyke. We need to take it back. So, Mike, if you could.
All right. Slate, it's time to reclaim man-hating dyke. Another Why It's Okay to Hate Men diatribe has been published. This time the reason is it's 2018, #MeToo era, and the Kavanaugh hearings didn't go the way they should have. From the Slate article. I felt relieved to acknowledge an obvious truth. Most men treat women like something less than human, whether accidentally or on purpose, and that means it's hard to like them. I'd recently been scanning the men coming into my workplace, wondering about their histories of sexual assault. Is he a rapist? What about him? Where does he fall on the creep scale? It was an old impulse that had returned in force as the nation debated just how many of their husbands, brothers, and sons were Given that 1 in 3 American women experienced sexual violence in their lifetimes, Republicans insisted that men were the ones who should be afraid, while women recounted the everyday harrowing ways we reroute our lives to avoid assault. My, quote, woke male co-workers made #MeToo jokes as if the whole thing were a funny spectacle. It was enough to make me want to stop talking to men entirely. End quote. The author thinks the reason, as a married lesbian, she still defends hypothetical men's feelings right away is because patriarchy runs so deep, and we need anger to overcome American fascism. However, the problem is some people may then call you names like man-hating dyke. Quote, man-hating dyke is a classic insult used to remind queer women that there's something wrong with us. Second-wave straight feminists did whatever they could to distance themselves from lesbians, avoiding the lavender menace and adopting pretty gender-conforming icons like Gloria Steinem. Straight or queer, angry or not, trans women's mere existence is considered a threat. End quote. She explains the problem with this. Dykes have always held cultural space for women's anger, absorbing and reflecting the frustration with men that straight women can't express. And goes LGTOW, lesbians going their own way, in conclusion. Quote, what I mean instead is reclaiming a phrase that lets us divest from patriarchy in a more serious way. Men have to learn what it feels like when we stop protecting them, and we have to stop seeking male approval. We have to name who's perpetrating violence against cis and trans women in this country. It's white men, with the white women who are invested in patriarchy along for the ride. We need to quiet the last of those self-censoring voices. Reimagining something bigger than resistance, in Michelle Alexander's terms, requires us to get beyond that fear of male approval. Once we do, we could be a source of massive radical power, and straight women would do well to follow our lead. End quote. End of article. I feel several IQ points dumber now.
Yeah, so that ended with essentially, dear women who disagree with me, you're asking for it. You want it. You know it. Let us speak for you. Let us talk over you. Let us ignore your own ideas and your own thoughts and opinions, because those are put there by men. Just hand it over to us. No, we don't have boundary issues. It's not a boundary issue. It's just that we want to speak in your stead without you having the ability to make your own decisions. And there's nothing wrong with that, because we're lesbians and that makes us right. And dykes have always held cultural space for women's anger. We speak for everybody, right? Absorbing and reflecting the frustration with men that straight women can't express. She's obviously never hung out in a group of straight women having a girls' night out, because they express quite a bit of frustration with the differences between themselves and the men in their lives. They just do so, for the most part, affectionately, because they don't hate men. They just are frustrated with the fact that men and women do things differently. But lesbians, on the other hand, there's a class of lesbian, the man-hating dyke, that has such insane level boundary issues that they cannot allow other women to have individuality. And apparently, one of them now has a platform in Slate. But that's not surprising, considering who Slate's given platforms to in the past. It's just kind of disgusting.
Well, I personally am for the reclamation of man-hating dyke. I think it's a good way for us to identify the people who feel that way. So, I mean, good on you for honesty. Like, just come out with it. This is all right by me. I don't find this to be a very important statement to make, because I kind of knew it. But thanks for also, agreeing with me, I guess.
I just gotta repeat this line here, just because it's such a great line. Men have to learn what it feels like when we stop protecting them.
Yeah, right.
When did you ever start?
Yeah. Jeez.
I think it's called being born, right? There is a period right at the beginning of one's life. Yeah.
Touche.
You're being protected.
It depends on who your mom is. I mean, you think about it, mothers kill more babies than fathers. Women kill more babies than men. So there's that.
Also, I don't believe this woman has bred, and I really hope not. Anyway, I'm trying to remain optimistic.
Because she's eating it all.
I was going to say that. Oh, shit.
I should have saw that coming.
Yeah.
Okay,
well,
okay.
You can see the anti-feminist jokes coming. They use feminists as a platform, and feminists are definitely much easier to see coming than other people.
Well, it's a good thing that we're dealing with the hot, important issues facing women, like the reclamation of pejoratives as positive things, and just being ugly enough to be ignored and not have to deal with men, and also making sure that we support people who make false accusations no matter what at a law school, because women. So now that we've gotten all of the women issues out of the way, let's talk a little bit about the a man's issue. It's not nearly as important. Like, it's clearly like, who gives a shit, but maybe we should know something about it. So I'm going to Mike, are you okay with doing another one, or doing the rest of these, or?
Yeah, sure.
All right, cool.
Alrighty, world's worst job. Another one by Stapler. Meanwhile, in India, the patriarchal overlords are dying from working in the sewers. From the Daily Mail, quote, recent government statistics revealed that a manual scavenger has died every 5 days since the start of 2017 while cleaning sewers. And a total of 573 people have died between 2008 and 2018, data shows. A further 96 people died from January to September this year. End quote. On September 9th, 5 men aged 19 to 26 died while cleaning a septic tank in Moti Nagar in Delhi. They had worked as maintenance workers and pump operators in a residential building, but were forced by their supervisor to go inside a septic tank to clean it without any safety equipment or masks. Only one man survived, while the others died after inhaling toxic gases while cleaning the tank. Yikes. The high death toll has prompted protests in the streets. Many manual scavengers belong to Valmiki community, a subcaste that is considered one of the lowest of the so-called untouchable Dalit caste. The members of these communities have done most of the cleaning and sanitation work in Indian society, past and present.
Yeah,
So
that male privilege, though.
That deadly gas is probably methane. That's, I cannot imagine forcing anybody to go inside and clean something like that without safety equipment or masks. You know, in any other setting, like if I had, when I worked at the gas station down the street from where I live, when I had to go in the restroom and clean up puke, just puke. It wasn't, an entire septic tank. It was just puke in the sink. I had a gown over my clothes. I had gloves. I had a mask. I had, if I wanted them, I had safety goggles if I was afraid it was going to splash on me.
The goggles, they do nothing.
Yeah, they do. They keep it out of your eye, and you don't know what that person has.
These guys are lucky if they get a rope.
This is insane. And this is, we hear this, those backward India people that are making these guys do this. I just read a story about men having to dive down to the bottom of 80-foot tanks in, I believe, North Carolina, as one of the eastern coast states, to clean items that are mostly used by women, in particular, those so-called flushable wipes. Guys, they're not flushable. Do not flush the flushable wipes. They're not actually flushable. It is false advertising. And they had to go down. Now, this was without gloves, too, because they had to be able to feel what they were grabbing, which is so disgusting. And they had to go basically dive down to the bottom and take piles and piles of it. They showed a cage full of this stuff that they had stuffed with this stuff. And we're talking as tall as a person. And at least a couple feet across and a couple feet deep, full of wet, so-called flushable wipes that are not dissolving in the septic system because they just don't. And that's just those. There are women all over the United States who think that because the box that you get your tampons in says they're flushable, that they must be flushable. And then there are women who put pads in the toilet, and somebody has to come and clean that stuff out. So, this is literally a shit job. And the only people who do it are men. And
Absolutely.
all too often, there's not women who do this job.
No, but it's funny. The articles about this, they don't write it as men. They write it as people. These are the number of people who have died, but they don't recognize that it's men doing. This is one of those jobs women won't do, or feminists don't want women to do even.
Yeah, women don't have to do this kind of work. It's just so hard to be a woman that we get out of all the jobs like this. So hard to be a woman that we can cause this kind of problem and we never have to solve it. I just don't know how to handle it, man. Benefiting from men's work every day. Such a burden. This pisses me off.
Well, you have emotional labor to deal with. By the way, let me show you something else. So Lindsay, who wrote this up, she showed me, and I'm sharing this on the screen right now, is a photo of a man named Brij Mohan, who's a 52-year-old sewer worker who knows how long he's been doing this. He's showing the boils that have formed all over his body due to working under these conditions. So these are the people that live. So think about that. There's the guys who die, and then there's the guys that don't. And what happens to them? I don't know which is worse. I'm going to go with dying, but suffering could also be bad. And yet, India still has feminists that claim they live in a patriarchy.
Oh yeah, Indian women are so oppressed because the men clean up their shit.
The thing that really stuck with me reading this story was they were talking about how little these guys make a year, which a month, which I think roughly translates to less than $150 American. And they were talking about like the real kick in the pants of all this is they end up spending most of that money eventually to treat the horrible skin and respiratory diseases they come out of here with, because obviously diving into raw shit every day just ain't good for your health, if you can believe that.
No, it would definitely result in, like, you hear of work-related illness and injuries. This is work-related illness and injuries. And you know what struck me? 5 men aged 19 to 26. My son was still a senior in high school after he turned 19. He was a senior in high school for just a couple of months, just a few months during his 19th year. He's more than that. He's 20 now, or at least he will be in February. But it just, somebody that young being forced to do a job like that. Part of me wonders if the reason that these men were able to be pushed into that is because they were all young. 19 to 26 is essentially college age here in the U.S. Here in the U.S., there are so many guys that are that age, and most gals that are that age aren't even grown up. I mean, we've got our military; they're grown up, and there are people who, right out of high school, get jobs and start families. But there are a lot of American kids who don't grow up until after the age of 26, more than halfway through their 20s. And it's pretty well demonstrated in their protests that are taking place all over the country right now. When you're looking at basically children having a temper tantrum, and most of them are in that age group. And here these guys were doing probably I hope there is not another job in India that is shittier than what was described there. There probably are. And that's the kind of stuff they get forced into, because they're not in as much of a position to say no, and they may not have lived long enough to develop the ability to say no when they shouldn't. And then being in, one of the lowest untouchable castes, their work prospects are low, and they probably know that. Like, this is just the idea that it's women and women only in India who suffer adversity. Just because you suffer adversity doesn't mean you're oppressed. You're stuck in something like this, you're oppressed.
Yeah. It's. I'm glad that they're talking about it, and they're trying to like get this issue addressed. I don't know a lot about India's politics. I do know the caste system sucks, and that's definitely a big part of the problem. But I'm reminded of something that Alison was talking about, where she did it in one of her videos, I believe, on deprogramming women, and it's about how a business owner shifted. Maybe it wasn't about deprogramming women; it was maybe another video. But how this business owner shifted his focus away from productivity and more so towards safety in an effort to try to increase. I mean, like, as a side effect, there was an increase in productivity, but I'm seeing in this case, like, they went in without any protective gear. And I know that India is borderline third world. Like, that's just from people who I've spoken to that live there. It's borderline, but I'm pretty sure they can get that. I think that the problem is that, the caste system probably is a large part of this issue. But I think that if there was more compassion for men and the value they bring as like sort of like the backbone to any society in terms of like, infrastructure and all that, then we would probably this sort of thing wouldn't happen despite their limitations. So I don't think that this is. I think this is in many ways it's obviously a caste issue and like the inequality that results of that. But I also think that there's a compassion for men issue because I bet that there are plenty of ways in which this could be fixed and that 5 deaths in one go. And the funny thing is that this has been going on for a long time. Yet this is what actually gets attention from the Daily Mail, for example. So, like, how many does it take before, we start making a big deal out of it so that maybe there'll be some attention put on it in India? And also, how many men that don't even, like, that aren't in those countries that are doing similar work in even in developed worlds, like even in the first world here, are, like, dealing with conditions that we don't know about because the press hasn't talked about it or because there hasn't been a light shined on it. I mean, I'm not saying it would be as bad as this, but there's probably stuff we don't know. And because it's affecting men and we don't have that compassion, we're not going to, we may never find out. I mean, that's just something I'm sort of bouncing around in my head, so. Well, if no one has any other thoughts on this story, it's going to get darker. I'm sorry, but the last story is pretty dark. But we're going to read the super chats, and then I will go ahead and we'll move on to the next story, the last one. So the DCV Titan gives us $5 Canadian and says, "Since when was man-hating dyke used against lesbians? I'm almost 40, and I have only heard it used against militant feminists." Same difference. I'm kidding. But what we call political lesbians. Redicus gives us $5 and says, "Fag needs to go back to the old meaning as a barren woman because this man-hating dyke qualifies." I think you guys just both donated to whatever YouTube's charity is. So probably the Me Too movement, I'm guessing. Just based on what I know about YouTube's beliefs. Or maybe your money went towards, hormone replacement therapy for 10-year-olds. Dynasty Zero gives us $5 and says, "Believe women. Here's your $5 HBR. That won't trip the algorithms." I think the word algorithm trips the algorithms, Dynasty Zero. So I believe you just donated to BuzzFeed's videos, 10 things that gender non-conforming people, Muslim particle physicists have for straight white men. Ciara de Flora gives us... Go ahead.
I want to say I bet HBR trips the algorithm.
Yeah, right, probably. Ciara de Flora gives us $5 and says, "When the Aryans invaded India in the 1500s BCE, not even they could stop the class system. It is that ingrained in their culture." Yes, yeah. It's a very, very conservative culture there that has essentially created this male disposability, and I don't have a problem calling it what it is, and that's the reason why when it comes to addressing the issues facing men, it's not about conservative or liberal so much as it's about authoritarians and libertarians, because any government structure that wants to control its people in some way by creating a legalized sort of enforced system, like in the case of India with their caste system, or caliphate, or even like our sort of constitutional republic. And the more rules that get put in place, the more authoritarian it gets. It's going to affect men the most. It's going to affect them first, and it's going to affect them the most. And it doesn't matter what side it comes from. There's just men under the yoke of the state and men that are free. Okay, so that's all of the super chats. I don't know if you guys have any final thoughts on any of this stuff. But if not, we'll just go on to the last story. Okay. Is it the echo? Is that what you're afraid of? Is that why nobody's talking? Or can you guys hear me?
No, I just basically said everything I was going to say.
Oh, okay. All right, then last story. Mr. Dr. Random Cam, if you could.
Alrighty. Father asks for custody of daughter, gets threats on his daughter's life. When a father, Kevin Dandridge, quote, asked for custody of his five-month-old daughter, he never anticipated that the mother would retaliate with such a vindictive act, end quote. The mother, Laquanda Mosley, Laquanda Mosley, responded to the request by holding her own daughter underwater on Facebook Live. Quote, these videos, which Atlanta police have asked the public not to circulate, show the mother holding the
daughter
child underwater repeatedly as she struggles helplessly in a plastic tub, end quote. She sent these videos to Dandridge with the message, okay, I don't speak pidgin, but I'll do my best. This baby about to die on God, send me my money now, or she bout die on live. Which I think in English means...
I think live.
On live.
On live, like Facebook
on
Live.
live. Right. So it puts the lotion in the basket or else it gets the hose, I think is what that means. This apparently happened in Giffin, Georgia. A friend of the mother saw the video and told police where to find her. Quote, authorities found her home with the infant and her 2 other children. The 5-month-old was taken to the hospital, end quote. Mosley was arrested and charged with intent to murder, first-degree child cruelty, and terroristic threats, admitting she made the videos because she was upset the father wanted custody. She has been denied bond. Woo, lad!
That is the strangest way I have ever heard to say, I wish to relinquish custody to the father. Normally you just, sign a paper. Like, that's a bizarre way to give up custody of your kid. I'm going to demonstrate publicly on a platform that thousands of people can see, that they can circulate the video of it all over the place, that it'll be undeniable that I'm an abusive asshole after this. That's a very strange way. Like, that's really convoluted. But seriously, on this note though, this is not uncommon. It's a more extreme reaction. That it's more actually life-threatening. But
she just happened to be dumb enough to do it on Facebook Live, basically.
Yeah. Well, she also was actually threatening the child's life. But mothers who have custody of their children, and the father wants more time with the child, or the father wants the child support order revisited, or the father even goes so far as to have the audacity to say, well, can I have visitation on Father's Day? Mothers on a regular basis will turn around and take their anger and frustration that the father still wants to be part of the child's life, and the child hasn't rejected the father with the same vehemence and hatefulness that the mother did. They'll take that out on the child. Even mothers who don't consider themselves mean and abusive. And I mean, this is out and out physical abuse that is life-threatening. But I've seen things that are more subtle that are still abusive. My husband's ex-wife sent their daughters to our wedding in clothes that she told them were too small, and told them it was so they would be ugly at our wedding. It wasn't, holding them underwater and threatening to drown them, but it was hurtful, and they felt unattractive and conspicuous until everybody reassured them that was not the case. And these are little girls, little kids, and I've seen the women around me do this. Women tell their kids, your daddy doesn't want you anymore, that's why he left, when in reality they kicked him out of the house. Women telling the kids, we can't afford that because your daddy's not paying his child support, when in reality it's being confiscated from his paycheck every week or every payday. So he never sees the money. It goes to the Child Support Enforcement Agency, and it goes to the mom, and then she lies about receiving it. This is really too common, and it takes a woman doing something this dramatic, this evil, for it to be noted, and for outrage to be expressed over it is just reprehensible. Parental alienation is child abuse. It's abuse of the other parent, but it's also child abuse. And out of the two, it hurts the kids the most.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I got some super
Especially
chats.
if you drown them in a fucking tub, by the way.
Yeah, especially, yeah. Not that I'm not laughing at that. That's just uncomfortable laughter. This is actually really really fucked up. But Hannah's right. It's not uncommon. I live in the hood in Chicago. I grew up here, and stories like this are not. They're less rare than people would think. The kind of things that people would do out of vindictiveness, especially, and I think it's, well, you know, I don't want to say what was on her mind, but sometimes I think that there is a lack of love for your child in communities like these, like the ones I grew up in. I don't know. There's just a lot of abuse that goes on. Let's just put it that way. It's very common.
Well, I will say you don't try to drown a child that you love.
To get back at somebody, yeah. No, you don't. That's what I'm saying, right? I mean, if you're just... Without me... I'm not taking a stance on this, but it just popped into my mind, you know. If you're just as likely to abort it as use it as leverage against somebody, then this is just not that surprising. So... And I'm not making a pro-life argument. I'm just saying that think about the kind of state you'd have to be in to be willing to do one or the other and not see much of a difference between them. So I got some super chats here. French Honey Badger in Capistan gives us $5 and says, "At least there's no way the judge can argue that she was misguided for having hurt feelings to justify giving her the child." Redicus gives us $5 and says, quoting Tommy Sotomayor, "BT1000 have no pity, feel no remorse, and will not stop until you are dead." The DCV Titan gives us $5 Canadian and says, "This is sick shit. Sadly, though, not rare enough. Anybody else remember the woman that cooked the kids in the oven and FaceTimed the father?" Yeah, I remember. And there's other stories, too. Very similar. And just the fact that you could like feel as though emboldened enough to just put it on the internet. Like you just know you care that little. You're just that, you know, you're out of fucks to that extent. That's crazy. Sierra de Flora gives us $5 and says, "My grandma took my sister and I 3 states over. She later claimed that it was because my mom didn't want us anymore and remarried. It was all lies." And then lastly, I got one from Ancapistan saying, "You're not reading Steam Labs donations. Where do I see those?" I'm still like new to this crap. Where are the Steam Labs donations? How do I look at them?
Streamlabs, and you got to log into Streamlabs first.
I am logged into Streamlabs. I'm on the page. I'm trying to see where it is. Maybe I'll go, let me see if they show like a history of things that have been sent. I'm trying to figure out how to look at it. If you guys can help me out, I don't understand. I don't understand where these are. I thought they would have popped up because look, Alison set it up like this, right? I think she was supposed to. She was supposedly going to set it up so that if I get a Streamlabs donation, it plays the chime and it plays the audio for the donation. Like it reads it out. And for some reason, I didn't get that once. So I didn't think I was getting any. So I don't know.
We've been hearing the noise.
So you guys have been hearing the noise, but like you're not getting you're not hearing the readout. Well, those noises are playing for the super chats I'm getting in YouTube, not for Streamlabs donations. So even if I get a super chat, it plays it out. So I don't know why it's not doing it. I'll try to figure it out. But if you guys want to talk a little bit about the story some more or whatever, I'm gonna try to figure out where these are, if they are anywhere.
All I can say is stories like this remind you why defaulting custody to one parent or the other is bad. The best situation for kids, and the most easy way to protect kids from an abusive parent is oversight by the other parent. The other parent's going to be invested enough in the child's welfare to gather proof. if one parent is abusive. So it's vital that kids have access to both parents, and 50-50 shared parenting rights seems to be the best thing that you could do in a divorce or a dual custody situation where neither of the parents wants to get married. So I don't know. We've had some groups that have fought for 50-50 shared parenting in the U.S. There's been some successes. We've had a lot of opposition from the National Organization for Women, and they use demonization of dads as deadbeats and abusers when they go to Congress to oppose laws like this. When they go to state congresses to oppose laws like this, and it strikes me that it needs to become a sort of a universal thing in the U.S., whether it's a federal law or whether the states adopt it, that if the state's gonna have any kind of say over custody, that needs to be the first thing the state says. Okay, well, if there's no contest here, then we go with 50-50. And if you want something else, you have to arrange it between yourselves, or you have to go to court to prove that the other parent doesn't have those rights. And it's going to be a hard road. But when you see a 50-50 shared parenting law being forwarded in your state, read it. And as long as what it says is that custody will be 50-50 unless it's contested in court or the parents come up with another arrangement, and as long as it doesn't make any kind of stipulations regarding, but the dad has to pay all the child support or something like that, support it. Be one of the people, if you can, be one of the people that does the footwork to get it put on the ballot if it has to go on the ballot. Be one of the people who writes to your congressman if it's introduced to your state legislature and explains why this is important. Look up the research that shows that kids need both parents, that cutting a dad out of a kid's life is very bad for the kid, and send that to your congressman. I know this is, I don't know if this is Georgia in the United States or Georgia the country. It sounds like it's Georgia in the United States. But things like this happen because of lack of oversight when one parent has custody. Lack of parental oversight. You can't have government oversight on this. You can't watch every parent.
Pretty sure it's the U.S. Sorry, go ahead. Georgia in the U.S.
I thought so.
I looked ahead to
Giffen. Well, it's like
it wasn't racist of me to do that accent because I knew it was Atlanta.
Yeah, there you go. Giffen, Georgia. So yeah, in any case, this is something that the only way to get this done, the only way to protect kids is going to be fight for equally shared parenting rights. It's really all we have for a situation like this. And you're going to have to get women on board with it. The more women actually step up and say, no, this is important. No, you can't take fathers out of their children's lives and the children still be okay. Yes, equally shared parenting is important. Then the more likely it is that it's going to happen. The more likely it is that it'll be passed. And it won't matter whether they're going to vote. It matters Congress thinks women support it. That's the other end of it. Like, we could right now completely abolish women's voting rights and women would barely lose any social power at all. Most of our social power is we go to Congress and we say we want this and Congress gives it to us. And usually it's more vehement than that. Usually, you get pussy hat marches and fake statistics and all that kind of thing from feminists. But the fact that women speak up for something, it really has a major effect. So women that are MRAs and that are non-feminists and anti-feminists that are listening to this, it's on us. You want to see kids have access to their dads, and you want to see kids protected from abusive parents by the fact that they have access to both parents, then you got to speak up for equally shared parenting rights, period.
Absolutely. We wouldn't even be in this position if it wasn't for the way things are. So I looked, and according to Streamlabs, I don't have any Streamlabs donations to look at. I think the chime is basically for all the super chats that have been going through so far. So it looks like it's set up right. If I find out otherwise, I apologize in advance, and I'll read out all of the Streamlabs donations on the next stream. So that's all I can offer, but I don't know right now, and I don't think this is... I can't like do all of the IT work necessary to figure it out. But according to Streamlabs, there are no other donations, so I didn't miss anything. I have all the super chats, and I've read through them all already. So, there you go. With that said, I think we're gonna go into the after show. I know this show was a bit dark at the end, but think about this though, okay? I think that the fact that more people, I don't know if Trump voters is the way to put it. I would think it's probably a different, because I don't know how you poll for that, but there are people in the U.S. that are starting to break out of the narrative, and at least insofar as that they can see that men can be victimized and that men do have problems and they can be discriminated against and that it is something that they find unfair. And that is very promising. Maybe, and even like feminists, okay, have been slowly like accepting some of the MRA talking points where they say, they have, they cannot deny the case for, issues of, fatherlessness and issues of parental rights for men and issues like that. So even our opponents, if they're not completely insane, understand that, and they see it as a men's issue. They just think that they're the solution to it, and we all know that they're not. So when you look at that, where our enemies have to concede some of our points, and then people who we wouldn't necessarily consider allies, but people who are at least not in direct opposition are actually warming up more. They don't have to warm up to us, because I know that generally people keep their arms distance from MRAs, but they're warming up to the talking points. Then I will take it. So I think that this is, despite these terrible things that we were experiencing, that we saw in this week's show, rather. I think that there is a light at the end of the tunnel. And also, it's worth pointing out that this isn't new. It's not like the stuff with, Indian men dying in the sewers because they're trying to, help out their society, or women that have threatened their babies on, the internet or otherwise. That's not a new or growing phenomenon. That's actually closer to the norm. So it doesn't mean that things are getting worse. So for the after show... Oh, go ahead.
I wanted to point out one thing. It might be that they classified people who are aware of these issues as Trump voters because they still think that calling people Trump voters is some kind of an insult and actually reduces their credibility. You call somebody a Trump voter, that means that everything they do and say must be wrong because Orange Man bad. I think that might be the case.
But I would like to point out that in that survey, they did specifically ask people if they voted for Trump or Clinton. That's why they are able to, at least on the surface level, say Trump voters say X or Y or whatever.
What about people who didn't vote? Did they still get to answer the question?
I'm guessing not. I guess they only surveyed people who did vote.
Okay. All right. Well, ClickAccept said something that I wanted to comment on. He said, Brian, and this is not a super chat, but it caught my attention. I think your philosophy is deeply flawed. Men desire authority, not compassion. They are different to women. I never said that I think men desire compassion, but I think they still need it, right? And I think it's the only way that we're... I mean, look, I think that I wasn't trying to make the case that it's something that they prefer one thing or the other. I think that we can give men the love and compassion that I think that they need, while also not taking away their ability to be independent, free, and have their own control over their life and be responsible. Because I know that that's something that they desire deeply as well, right? And actually, the same thing goes for women too. When you take away all of their agency and their ability to have meaning in their life, they end up doing things like abusing their children because
That's why you got to differentiate. You got to differentiate between emotional compassion and practical compassion. And you liken it to the best way to liken it would be to the give a man a fish analogy. Emotional compassion is when you see somebody hungry and all you do is give them a fish. You're like, oh, I feel better now because they have a meal. And that's compassionate. You care that they are starving right now, and it's important. You got to take care of their right now. Practical compassion is supporting that individual's independent ability to take care of himself. And that's the teach a man to fish thing. And in our situation in the United States, it would be one step further to teach the boy that will become that man how to research and learn based on his own research, learn through discovery, basically. And most kids do that anyway. I mean, you learn language through discovery. Your entire speech capability that you develop in infancy and toddlerhood, that's all discovery. There's not a textbook. There's not a teacher. You just learn it. But giving people the opportunity to teach themselves things that they want to know, and staying out of their way and only offering support because they need it, and not offering to take over for them. That is the ultimate in practical compassion. And we as a society really need to get back to that if we want to survive, and I think we can.
When you say men desire authority, not compassion, they are different to women, it sort of implies that women don't desire authority, and I don't buy that for a second. Women desire authority and compassion, perhaps.
Women,
authoritarian movements are not without their female members, shall we say.
Where women are different to men in terms of authority is that women feel entitled to it, whether they've earned it or not. And I hate to say that, but I know we're going to go, oh, you're sexist. But it's true. You look at any ball buster out there. The fact that she can toss out commands. If you buck her authority, you're a misogynist. Not because of any earning that she's done, not because of any knowledge that she has or any experience that she can point to and say, I know what I'm talking about. Nope, you're a misogynist. You just don't listen to her because she's a woman. So men earn authority. Women demand it.
Yeah, there you go. I think they want to. Men want to earn it. They don't really want it given to them. So, okay. So some super chats. Ciara DeFlora. I think I read this one. No. Yeah, I did read that one. Miss Roboto. One more super chat. $2. He says Amy Schumer does know she is pretty and blonde. Well, that's delusional. Maybe she's looking at something like a photo of herself from like 20 years ago. All right, so we're going to be going into the after show. That is one hungry hippocampus is what I'm saying. We're going to be going into the after show. We're going to be talking about this opinion piece because I like to do these fun things in the after show after such a heavy regular show. It is entitled Keira Knightley Underestimates Cinderella. She is a hustler and a baller. This woman got paid to write this. Maybe. I'm not really sure. Do they even pay them? Because I know that there's a lot of people who write for like these big websites for free. And we're going to go through this story and have a laugh at what the counter argument is and the important discussions surrounding Cinderella and other Disney princesses, because that's the modern day discourse around women now. It's Disney princesses. So if you want to join us on this stimulating and all too real discussion, you have to become a patron at www.patreon.com/honeybadgerradio, and one level of patronage will get you to watch our shows, and another level will get you to join in on the shows. You'll also get to hang out with us in the Discord, where we are always about in some fashion or another. Alison and Prim Reaper practically live there, and so you can always talk to them. And yeah, so it should be a good time, and you should consider doing that, especially now that YouTube appears to have been changing their algorithms again. And who knows how long it will be before we are gone, when you consider that all of Silicon Valley seems to be moving toward, they're closing the circle. It's getting ever tighter, and we may slip out. So I don't know. But I want to thank you guys for coming on, despite my technical problems. I'll have to figure them out as soon as I can. And I want to thank...
Don't forget the Blog Talk upload. That'll have much better sound quality.
Yeah, it should, except that actually, since I've been recording it with my Audacity, my audio will pick up your commentary, so my audio might not be so good.
I'll figure something out.
All right, cool. Well, yeah, so... Anyway, I want to thank you guys for coming on the show, and thank you, the audience, so much for joining us on this episode of HBR News. I have been Brian, and we'll talk to you guys very soon. Have a lovely day.